So, sup you chuckle fucks, it's your boy Dark Raikou here with What If Issei Became a Vasto Part 2. So, let me actually explain and begin into this what if. But yeah, also no recaps, so yeah. But you're probably wondering about the thumbnail and why it changed. Well, since this is supposedly be the redo one, mostly I did the redo yesterday, but this is supposed to be the redo what if, I decided to change the thumbnail. Now, let me explain one thing. Like I said, I was going to change some abilities and some stuff from like the original, the original What If. But some of the storyline and some of the characters would still kind of stay the same somewhat. But yeah. The original story might not be the same. I might just kind of change it, but yeah. Because I have an entirely different storyline and to go onto instead of going onto with the original. Now, I remember what the original was, and some characters might come back, and some of them might just decide to stay, and yeah. Now, not the point. So, this is also, mostly if you see it in the thumbnail, this will actually be his mostly Vasto form. So, he's going to have a couple forms, but this is mostly his Vasto form. It's basically a black and red version of what's it called, mostly Virgil's kind of double trigger, but yeah, Sin double trigger. So, yeah. Since I love Sin double trigger from Virgil most of the time. Now, of course, mostly seeing Dante's is cool, but mostly I just love fucking seeing Virgil's most of the time. So, of course, I decided to just mostly not do the Virgil one, the blue and white one, blue and black mostly one, or whatever. But instead, I like to kind of put it like a black and kind of red, because that's basically going to be like his Vasto Lord, or it might be a different form, but yeah, not the point. Now, also, you might wonder these pictures of Pokemon. Now, I'll explain that also with his two mostly swords that he has. But yeah, the two swords that he actually got after mostly the let me begin. So we go into mostly Issei kind of waking up and training, or not waking up and training. No, no. We go into a kind of battle between someone who is actually a kind of hollow right now terrorizing this like small village. Well, it's not small village, it was kind of near cool, but mostly someone appeared out of nowhere, kicking this thing so hard in the face, launching it through a portal, and of course disappearing himself. This is where the person had basically a scarf, mostly a scarf, and also somewhat like a hood, kind of covering up his face. And this is where, well, you couldn't barely even see it. Of course, he only blinked really fast, knocking this thing out of what's it called, the town. This is where, well, they appeared in Wakemundo. This is where, well, the creature screeches out, and of course, screaming mostly straight towards the humanoid kind of person right in front of him. Now, of course, the person also has like these white and kind of like, mostly he has a white coat with a black button-up shirt mostly underneath. This is where, well, he also has kind of these white, saggy, kind of like somewhat baggy pants. This is where he has two swords next to him, one being black and one being white. Now, two different things about the black and white sword is one is actually kind of glowing up with this little bit of heat of fire, mostly the white sword, while the black one is kind of glowing up with this kind of like blue crackling lightning around it. Now, this is where, well, the person isn't really using the swords, he's not using reality right now, but mostly the swords themselves are glowing a little bit. This is where, well, mostly the kind of hollows right now screeching straight towards the person, and right now trying to use its tentacles to try to stab at the person. This is where the person dodges pretty easily. This is where he can dodge right, left, and also just kind of speed up also. By using the Hollows version of mostly the Arankar's version of mostly Flashback. I forgot what it's called. What was it called? This is where, well, this person seems to be using Sonido. Right now, a high speed movement kind of similar to that of Flashback for Shinigami. But it seems to be a little bit different. It seems to be Flashback and Sonido together, making him much more faster than normal. It's like if he's basically a Shinigami and a Arankar at the same time. But this is where, well, the Hollow's confused because he never met this kind of mostly person. It feels Mostly the hollow itself, it has a weird feeling like he's fighting in a wrong card, but at the same time a Soul Reaper. This is where he's confused. The only time he ever felt this is when he actually fought one of those, well, mostly somewhat ex-Shinigami's who were actually somewhat turned into a hollow. But this is where he only met them one time, and that was just because he was trying to hide away, but he almost died. This is where he is confused, but he keeps using the tentacles to try to hit the thing, but this is where, well, the thing itself seems to just be easily dodging it. This is where he appears right in front of the hollow, grabbing that hollow from the mask, and then feeling like he's crushing it underneath his own strength. Mostly this kind of humanoid. This is where, well, the hollow tries to, well, use his tentacles to try to grab it. But before it even grabbed it, or mostly like cage it with its tentacles, it gets cut down with just one blade. And that one blade was a black blade. And it's mostly when the hollow noticed the black blade itself is crackling with a little bit of lightning. This is where, well, he's confused. But this is where, well, the sword itself started glowing with a very powerful, very like a loss of reality kind of appearing. This is where the hollow itself tried to jump away and tried to also reopen a gate towards the humanoid world, the human world. But before it can even do that, this is where he hears a lightning divine slash. This is where, well, the humanoid appears right in front of him and swings his sword upwards. This is where, well, when the like a blue but yet goldenish slash right now appear right in front of him, crackling with so much lightning, it literally just cut the hollow in half. It doesn't even matter if it didn't even hit the mask. It literally cut it in half. This is where it cut the hollow entirely in half, destroying it, evaporating it from existence, mostly dissolving it. But yeah. This is where, well, he then puts his blade back into most of the side of himself, not the sheath, but mostly the side. But yeah, the blade started calming down after a while, but still, it's still quite erratic with lightning, but not the point. This is where, well, the being itself right now kind of takes off the scarf and of course removes kind of a white mask that was underneath his face. He breathes out and then breathes like mostly a sigh of relief. He said, that didn't really take me that much longer. How long did that take? 3-4 minutes? Well, did it take me 4 minutes? Oh god, I feel like Urahara is going to annoy the fuck out of me. Maybe I should probably get to the shop before Urahara kind of question and where I'm at. Okay, well yeah, I should probably get there. This is where, well, he kind of like puts the white mask back on and of course puts the scarf back on. This is where he then makes a kind of riff. It's mostly the riff thing is called, he makes a Doscared. It's basically just a riff. I'm gonna just call it riff most of the time and not go on with the Spanish one because I fucked it up most of the time. But not the point. This is where he kind of like jumps in and of course gets to the human world, but mostly towards a place called Karakura town. This is where, well, it's been actually like 6 months, a while ago. Well, not even 6 months. It's been actually 3 months since mostly the last time he visited Kuo town, but now he did kind of visit it for a little bit, but that's just because he was there to only get rid of Hollow. Just because, yeah. He still has 3 more months before mostly the whole sickness illusion is gone. But that's not the point. Most of this person seems to be a little bit taller and much more handsomer half the time. That's why he kind of wears somewhat of a mask. That and he's always kind of nervous and shy. He's not very good at seeing eye to eye. Well, he can see eye to eye. He just doesn't like seeing face to face. But yeah. But yeah. He gets to Karakura town and of course lands down. This is where when he lands down on a shop, he sees an orange haired person right now kind of like talking towards some friend of his. Well, mostly some, yeah, friends of his. This is where, well, the orange haired person kind of noticed the person in front of him. And this is where, well, he can feel the Rialsu energy from this person. This is where, well, mostly the orange haired boy kind of looks at mostly the person who basically is wearing a black button-up shirt, a white coat, white kind of baggy pants, and this is where, well, has 2 swords next to him, has the white scarf and kind of a white hood over mostly his face entirely, And of course, even if you could get rid of the scarf and also the hood, there's the white mask. A blank white mask. Not really having any patterns. This is where, well, mostly this is where the orange-haired boy says, "So, it seems you went on another mission, haven't you, Issei?" This is where he now kind of calls out the person. This is where, well, the person removes his entire face and other things. Right now showing off his kind of face, but this is where, well, he still puts on his, mostly, he's kind of just removes his for a little bit, cracking a little bit, his mostly mask. This is where, well, mostly the now known person named as Issei, not insane, yes, yeah, big brother Ichigo. It's kind of been a while, and it's been a drag of me having to go hunt hollows, rogue hollows that I should get from, well, get out of from Mundo, and decide to try to feed on the human souls. This is where, well, Ichigo, who is now, well, the orange-haired boy now known as Ichigo, kind of nodded. This is where, well, Issei's a little bit younger than Ichigo, but yeah, Ichigo is 19, while Issei is actually 17. So yeah. Now, this is where, well, they're kind of walking into mostly the shop, and this is where, well, Urahara says, "Is that Ichigo and Issei?" This is where, well, Urahara appears right now being goofy somewhat. This is where, well, both Issei and even Ichigo has tick marks. Just with the annoyed expression with the fact that Urahara is always just annoying half the time. This is where, well, Issei says, "I'm already done with my report on defeating the Hollow." "Oh, you can just tell me that you defeated it. You don't even need to write it out." "Don't I need to give this to mostly Tira?" Or yeah, mostly, I think her name, yeah, Tira or mostly Grimjaw. This is where Urahara says, "Do you think Grimjaw is actually going to read the report?" "No." "Do you think Tira is going to read the report?" "Probably." "Okay, yeah, maybe she will. But not the point. But I'm happy you're back. Now, we should go on with your training. And Ichigo is going to just be here to help you actually kind of fully, like, mostly make your mask. That's why I asked Ichigo to come here. Ichigo does have his Soul Reaper powers, and that's why he's been training for a while, but yeah. This is where, well, mostly Issei looks up towards Ichigo and says, "Are you really going to help me in actually learning how to control my mask? Or mostly the first basic step for the Hollow Mask?" Ichigo says, "Yep. Now, I know you're strong enough without the Hollow Mask, since you do have the permanent, mostly hole in your chest. That's actually a thing for Issei. He actually has a like, instead of being a normal kind of Shinigami with the powers of Hollow, mostly they have the Hollow Mask first and other stuff before having the hole, because the hole just represents mostly you actually, I think, awakening Vasto, since Ichigo had it. I'm gonna just say something like that. But mostly the other Shinigamis, I don't think, has a hole in their chest. The ones that kind of had the experiment of a hollow power. But yeah. But this is a little bit different. He does have the hole in his chest. And he does have it in the middle of directly in his like chest. Well, mostly like upper. Similar to that Ichigo's kind of hole when he goes into Vasto. But yeah. This is where, well, the one thing that Issei doesn't have is he does have mostly the fragment of mask on his face, which is kind of directly mostly towards the power of mostly that of what he is. He's an Aron but he's a human Aron I must say, because he's still human, but he's an Aron. Now, the reason why he has a Zanpakuto, because one of his swords is considered a Zanpakuto, and not a, what's it called, mostly Aron like release form, is because mostly is something weird with his family. Mostly, Urahara did try to figure out why Issei even has Zanpakuto. It's something completely connected towards his family and why he has a Zanpakuto. One of his family members were actually a Shinigami. Similar to that of like Ichigo's kind of like mostly father finding out that he was a Shinigami, and his mother, well, no one knows yet. Because during this time, mostly this kind of time space, mostly where this is actually taking place is kind of between mostly when Ichigo kind of already got his like Shinigami powers back from that one arc. I forgot what that arc is called. And also between mostly the Thousand War. Mostly the Thousand War will still come later. But yeah. Now, this is where, well, Issei is kind of just nodding at the fact that mostly that's the thing that mostly for some reason he has the Zanpakuto, but yeah. Now, this is where, well, Urahara just doesn't really know about what's really happening with his family lineage, and of course he's been figuring out for mostly 3 months, trying to figure out where he actually got the Zanpakuto lineage from, or mostly not the Zanpakuto, but the Shinigami. He's been looking through mostly Issei's kind of lineage and family and parents and other things. He's been trying to figure out where it actually started and who actually was the one with the Shinigami powers, and blah 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 blah. He's mostly been looking in Issei's mother's side, but yeah, thinking because mostly Issei's super close with his mother and not really close with his father, he's actually mostly Urahara decides to follow with the mother thing. But yeah, he hasn't actually looked into mostly Issei's father, which I will have an explainment in Issei's father, but not going to not the point. Now, this is where, well, mostly we go into mostly Ichigo and Issei kind of fighting, or mostly trying to train in the fact that he can awaken his mask. Because even though Issei does have a fragment of mask, if he uses the hollow mask, mostly because if he does summon out the hollow mask, because he's still considered a human slash a wrong card, he can't really release his full power with the sword of blade, because that'll only release a little bit for some reason. But yeah, well, it doesn't release a little bit, but well, mostly the sword itself, he can try to release the full power, but it won't work. So of course he'd rather have to go with the mask one, mostly summoning out just a hollow mask for mostly a bit of more power. Because if he uses a full release one, he will accidentally go berserk on accident. But yeah, which they're not trying to do that again, because mostly a bunch of Soul Reapers had to kind of knock him out, since Issei's mostly Vasto was a little bit stronger than almost a lot of people would have thought. The reason why is because of Issei's kind of, not endowment power, but the fact that, well, it wasn't was it called dormant? Well, it wasn't dormant, and the fact that he ignored the powers that he's been building up for the past 7 years. And no one was expecting that his Ryasu was going to grow in 7 years extremely fast. Well, maybe for one person, that was none other than Sasuke Aizen. But yeah. But I'll explain what the Sasuke Aizen and mostly Issei has in connect, but not the point. This is where, well, we go into mostly Issei and mostly Ichigo right now fighting, and of course this is where Issei is trying to put a bunch of Ryasu on his face, just mostly in his hand, to try to awaken the mask, which it's really hard for him to kind of, well, mostly do the similar same as how Ichigo can easily put it down and fight him in equal power, or mostly not equal power but overpowering mostly Issei. This is where, well, Issei is trying to fight back against Ichigo. He's not using his swords because he's not that much of a great swordsmanship. Well, I mean, he is pretty good at swordsmanship, but mostly he's just trying to focus on mostly awakening the hollow mask. This is where, well, he's fighting against Ichigo, but this is where Ichigo is much faster and sent a Getsuga Tensha straight into Issei, which right now launches Issei to a wall and kind of knocking him out for a little bit. This is where, well, Issei's eyes became a yellowish color, a very darkish yellowish color, one of his eyes, and this is where his face becomes a grin. Of course, this is where a hollow mask started appearing on mostly his, like, right side of his face, or not right side, mostly left side. This is where, well, or not left side, mostly the right side, and this is where, well, the one where the yellowish eye, this is where, well, Ichigo hears the cackling, a very cackling, sinister kind of laughter, and of course malicious grin actually appearing on Issei's face. This is where we go into Issei. Interesting. So you're trying to figure out how to control me. You would never control me, because I am the true king. This is where he grabs one of the swords from the side of mostly Issei's body, and of course right now rushes straight towards, well, Ichigo. The sword that he grabbed is a white blade. This is where, well, Ichigo right now blocks it with his Bankai, and of course both of them are clashing. This is where Ichigo is trying to snap Issei out of mostly his darkness deep thoughts, and this is where, well, right now the white version of Issei is right now in control. This is where, well, The white version of Issei, mostly I'm gonna call him Shiro. Shiro says, "Oh, sorry, but Issei is not right now available. Please leave a message after this tone, or after I slice you down." This worked well. Right now, you should go kind of get the check mark and say, "Did you really copy that from a fucking phone?" Never mind. I'm just gonna have to knock you out. That's if you could. This is work well. Right now, Ichigo says, "Getsuga." This is work well. Mostly, what's it called? Ichigo's doing a Getsuga Tencho, while mostly, Issei, the white version, Shiro, says, "Blue, flare." This is where, well, the white sword itself started kind of glowing into a bluish color and kind of firish. And this is where both of them swings down, well, mostly Ichigo swings down, while mostly Issei swings up. And this is where both attacks right now smashes into each other. A black and red energy smashes into a blue and very fiery energy. This is where, well, both their attacks kind of clash. This is where Ichigo is trying to, well, not get pushed back from mostly Issei's immense power. And of course, right now dealing with Shiro is kind of even worse, because Shiro right now has the intent to kill. Unlike Issei, who also doesn't have that much intent to kill, because he's a little nervous and has PTSD from some stuff. But yeah. Does it work well? Ichigo is trying to right now launch enough Getsuga Tencho, mostly a lot of Ryotsu, into the Getsuga Tencho to push the blue flare away, which he managed to destroy. But of course, the Getsuga Tencho smashes into mostly Shiro Issei. This is where Shiro Issei smashes into the ground, and of course, it worked well. Issei has a giant slash on his mostly body, and this is where he coughs up some blood. And this is where, well, the mask itself started shattering from his face. Now, of course, the mask itself isn't white, but mostly a kind of reddish, like a bloodish reddish color with kind of black and also being green a little bit. But yeah, but not the point. Well, it's not green, it's mostly just bloodish red. This is where, well, it kind of disappeared, but yeah. And it did kind of have some purple and black, but not the point. This is where, well, the mask itself disappears. This is where, well, Ichigo's right now tired a little bit, but yeah. Dealing with Shiro Issei's right now a different story. He is mostly Issei's insanity side, or mostly a protected side. Because even though mostly the hollows are supposed to be insane and other things, Ichigo kind of knows a little bit about the fact that mostly Shiro does protect him a lot, while his own Shiro being his own white version. Now, the Issei Shiro kind of, mostly Issei Shiro's side, the white version, does protect Issei a lot, and does go in the cost of killing people, and will actually slaughter anyone that dare even gets close to trying to attack him, mentally or even physically. But yeah, he actually does appear anytime. But that's just because of how Issei's low esteem is. Issei's quite low esteem. He's quite shy a little bit most of the time. He's not muted, but very shy and can barely talk most of the time. If he's not around people that he knows. If he doesn't know that many people, then he will become kind of shy and mute a little bit. But yeah, that's not the point. But we go into Issei's mindscape. This is where Issei is kind of right now getting memories and, well, more memories about his past. And this is where he's just trying to push it away because he doesn't want to remember any of it. A man right now appears right in front of him. A man with brownish hair, and of course had a brownish bang right in front of him. His brownish hair was pushed back, and this is where, well, the man tries to get close to Issei, and Issei right now tried to use one of his swords to try to cut him down. But this is where, well, he knew it was only an illusion and only something that mostly his mind has been kind of playing with his conscious, or mostly himself. He tries to cut it down and destroy it. He doesn't want to remember this person ever. This is where, well, the person catches his sword, and this is where the person was just grinning and smiling at Issei. This is where Issei's face became nothing but dread and right now despair. Issei right now just didn't really want to ever meet this person, because this person was 10, no, millions of times stronger than him. Issei felt like the child, a child that mostly he was. He didn't feel like he was 17, he felt like he was 10 years again. Mostly 10 years old again. This is where, well, he didn't even have his sword, but mostly just a dull white sword when he was fighting against this person. This is where he felt multiple cuts around his body appear, but this is where it was nothing but illusion. He's trying to fight back and trying to take control back into his mind, but of course he can't. Doesn't work well. He tries to get up, but this is where he passes out. We go into mostly Issei's mind plaguing him again after mostly this battle. This is where Issei managed to wake up, but even more in a cold sweat. This is where, well, mostly Urahara was like near him, and of course just telling Issei if he doesn't want to, like, well, not if he doesn't want to, but mostly that he needs to kind of try to balance his mind. Because there's one thing problem with him. Even though Issei can't really use both swords, there's actually a problem with Issei's both of his swords. The white one is actually always refusing him to actually, or not refusing him. Mostly Issei refuses to use the white sword. And mostly the white sword kind of refuses, so there's not really a balance with him actually being able to use the white sword. The black sword is actually him very comfortable in using it, but yeah. Now, we go into mostly Issei kind of just eating and just drinking some stuff, but yeah. This is where, well, he's getting ready to kind of fight against Ichigo again to try to get the mask down in control. He just needs to get the mask down in control, and then he will worry about Vasto Lord, mostly another form. That being, well, his true power. He has to first get the mask down and somewhat ways to control his white sword and accept his powers. Which he did had an idea to accept his power, but it's a little bit more difficult than mostly Ichigo's mostly exception of his power. So yeah. Because if you accept the white version of himself, you just accept the fact that all the pain and suffering he suffered when he was 10 years old was nothing. Which is quite difficult for him to actually accept. And the fact that he just doesn't want to remember all the pain and suffering he kind of caused to himself and caused to around people. But yeah. We go into mostly Issei kind of, well, fighting against Ichigo again the next couple of like days passing, but yeah. Ichigo kind of always beat him down and easily managed to knock him out, or just managed to stop Shiro from actually keep coming in to fight against Ichigo. Of course, Uryu was there to kind of help, even Orihime and even Chad, but yeah. To stop Issei from not going in berserk when he uses his Holofy mask, but yeah. Things weren't well. We go into, well, mostly Ichigo trying to, we go into mostly a couple of months later. Well, mostly 1 month later. Issei managed to kind of control his mask finally after, well, mostly a month later, but this is where he actually accepted a bit about his past self. That's just because he met up with someone who really he just never ever want to meet again. But he just decided to meet up with him and just finally just talk. Just talk with the person. And it was none other than a brown-haired person with brown bangs. Well, yeah, the brown bangs still on front of his face. But this time he's all chained up and has like these black kind of ropes around his face and other stuff. Mostly one covering up his eye and the others kind of around his body. But yeah. He's right now on the throne. And he does kind of, when Issei was walking towards him, next to him, well, mostly next to Issei was none other than, what's it called? Urahara and, well, yeah, Urahara. This is where, well, mostly Issei meets up the person. Now, of course, Urahara just stayed a couple of, like, feet away from mostly Issei meeting up with this person, but yeah. The person says, Watashi no, so yokoso, watashi no society. That means welcome to my soul society. When Issei hears this is where Issei right now freezes in a little bit, looking down and looking away from the person. The person right now kind of looks at Issei and says, "Wow, I never expected. The last person to ever visit me is you, Issei-kun." This is where, well, Issei freezes up even more. This is where, well, when Issei hears this is where Issei freezes up and just tries to look away. He doesn't even want to look at the person, the same direction, the same eye to this person. Issei right now has, well, Vasto tried to use his scarf and also his hood. He tried to cover himself, but he refuses at the same time. I swear, well, Issei might have took a glance at him once, and of course he knows this person can't really do anything to him because he's right now tied up with other stuff. But still, Issei still has a very, very great fear against this person. I swear, Issei says, "Shut up." Right now, very quietly, but still loud enough for mostly this person to hear. This is where the person chuckles and says, "Wow, so rude of you to call me. Well, what to tell me shut up? Is that all you came here? But still, not gonna lie, you grew up quite splendid. Well, mostly, not grew up, mostly, let me say it again. This is where the person says, I'm quite pleased, you see here. You actually mature quite splendidly. Still, I would say this will be a part of my plan, but I never expected you to ever meet me up again near the future. Not in a couple of thousand years or any of that. Can't believe it's been 7 years since the last time I seen you. You were just a little kid the last time I saw you. Issei freezes up, and this is where Issei says, shut up! This is where Issei just had enough, closed his eyes and just told him to shut up in an instant. Right now in a stern, angry voice. The person just grins at Issei, while Issei looks at him with just fury and anger in his eyes. Issei tries to calm himself down just before he accidentally goes into Vasto or any of that. Issei said, I just came here to talk. Why? Issei said with such anger and venom towards mostly just one word. This is where the person says, why? What do you mean with why? There's a lot of explanations that I can go on with why. Like why the world's so different, so cruel. Why you shouldn't trust that many people. Why you should never trust me. This is where, well, he says, just shut up in an instant. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Damn you, Aizen. Just tell me why. Why did you inject me with a syrup that actually turned me into a monster? This is where, well, most of the person now known as Aizen says, well, is that the only thing you want to know? Or do you want to know other stuff? Shut up with your games. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Just tell me. You want to know why I injected you? Well, it's because I wanted to see how strong a human and mostly a wrong card can get to be. I know humans' emotions are quite interesting, but I just decided to pick up a bunch of random kids to experiment on. I wasn't expecting too many to survive, or maybe not even at all. But when I injected you that one syrup of mostly a Vasto Lord instead of a normal, well, mostly Gilead or even was it called? This is where, well, a Gillian or a Hachucha, I did experiment on those children, and yet none of them managed to survive until I decided to use a little bit of a Vasto Lord DNA. Actually, not even a little bit. I use a lot. And I did use one of the strongest. It's not the point. You don't need to know about that one just yet. This is where, well, he says, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, nothing. This is where Aizen said, all you know here is luck was on your side that day. That day you didn't want to die. The day where I injected you with the Vasto Lord's kind of injection. And this is where, well, you're now considered a Vasto Lord, a wrong card human. One of the strongest, actually. Since not many other children was ever to be able to kind of be injected with a Vasto Lord's DNA and survive. You're the only one that actually managed to survive. The others that actually survive, I decided to just use Achu or even what's it called, Gillian. DNA, and they managed to survive quite well. Well, that's all I just wanted to say. That's pretty much all that you managed to survive. That was just completely luck, Aizen said. He said, no, something else. No, that day. I can't remember it clearly, but yet I have a weird feeling that Even though it's been 7 fucking years, I have a weird feeling that you weren't alone just to grab me. No, this must have been a plan. Someone managed to knock me out and bring me to you. Not just freaking Genichimaru or anyone else, but I have a weird feeling that I have something connected with you. Something more DNA and connection of somewhat family. I refuse for you to ever be family with me, but I still have a weird feeling. Oh. This is where Aizen grins with a very interesting grin, and the fact that Issei is right now figuring out something. This is where, well, Aizen says, oh, Is it the fact that you're wondering, are we family? I wonder how you will react if we are family. This is where Issei glares at the person. This is where, well, the person says, oh, we're not family at all. This is where, well, Issei right now took almost a breath of release. It's just, at least I'm not considered that much your family. I guess you can say I'm your great-grandfather. This is where Issei right now gasping an instant. Right now Urahara actually gasped because he wasn't actually expecting Aizen to reveal something big against Issei. Right now Issei looks at him and right now glares at him. This is where, well, the person right now grins and says, oh, and you're wondering how you were managed to get kidnapped in, well, Kuwa Town. Well, there wasn't that many children that I took from Kuwa Town at all. Actually, you were the only one that I took. Then how did you... I didn't know. I didn't even know you were actually my grandchild. I even completely forgot about my actual descendant grandchild that actually gave you up towards me. Do you know who that would be? This is where Issei widened his eyes. This is where Issei says, no, you're lying to me. No, you're just trying to play games with me again. This is where, well... Right now, Aizen looks at him and says, do you really think I will play games with you? What benefits would I actually get from the fact I'm playing games with you again? I can't escape. I can't leave this place. So how would any of this really work against me? I mean, you can try to kill me, but really, I don't think I would die. I'm immortal. I achieved mortality a while ago. So you can try your best in trying to kill me, but it would never work. But who do you think actually gave you up when you were 10 years old? Someone gave you up in an instinct. I wouldn't say your mother. Your mother is a human. But someone else in your family. Who else lives with you? This is where, well, Issei already knows the person and the answer. Issei's voice. He couldn't say anything. Anything was just mostly angry or anything. His voice was too dry. Too dry to even say anything, too scared, too afraid to even learn about the truth. Seems like you're refusing to learn anything about the truth. Fine, I'll tell you. It was your father. Your dear old father decided to give you up. Reasons why? I have no clue. I actually have zero clue why he gave you up. All I know is, well, your father gave you up. And, well, I took you a free kind of gratitude. There was no hollows to threaten him. There was no one to threaten him, not even Genichimaru. But yet, he gave you up in an instant. I don't even know how he managed to contact me. But you know, quite interesting. Your father gave up you so fast, so instantly fast. He even knocked you out when you were near the park. He knocked you out, gave you to me, and just walked away. And I was just confused a little bit and stunned that a human gave you to me. I didn't even know he was my own grandson after a long time of figuring out and thinking. I wonder why he gave you to me. I also would love to know about the mystery and why he did it. Did he know about my experiments? No, that wouldn't be the case. But weird, right? He's like, rather just kill you in an instant than ever. This is where he says, shut up. He says his voice was too trembling, sadness, and emotionless. This is where, well, he says face was all mostly gone from color. This is where Aizen looks at him. with a very interesting smile on his face. And this is where he says, just shut the hell up. This is where, well, Issei was getting angrier and crying a little, trying to hold in his tears. But he knew that he was never close with his father. And if his father, if mostly Aizen is telling the truth, then his father is the reason why he went through so much torture, so much pain. This is where, well, Issei felt and remembered all the times where his father really didn't seem to like him. But at the same time, throughout those memories of him remembering that when he was 10 years old, and decided to remember all the pain and suffering that he actually went through Aizen, we go into somewhat of a flashback of memories, of nightmares. This is where, well, Issei remembers everything, clear as day. He appeared and woke up in a dungeon that he didn't even know where he was at. He was with other children that was way younger than him, being like 7. The 7 was the youngest, one just child who was the youngest, being 7. He was basically 3 years younger than Issei. He had dark blue hair and dark blue eyes. This is where he was always scared and kind of hiding. He was actually next to Issei that day. But of course, then other children that were like 8 and 9, and also some others that were 10. But there was also some others that were 11, and even what's it called, like 12. The oldest one that was there was actually a girl that was 14. She was considered to be the, well, oldest in the entire group. But yeah, this is where, well, mostly everyone that was, well, yeah, she, well, not 14. She was actually, what's it called? Yeah, she was 14. And this is where, well, everyone else was about just 13 or even like 12 or 11 or whatever. This is where, well, Issei was scared that day. He didn't know what was happening. But people came in having like these white coats like scientists. And then also a man also came in having brownish hair and brownish bangs. This is where, well, one brownish bang. Issei actually accidentally kind of thought that that was his father for a second. He mistaked Aizen for being his father that day. This is where, well, because Issei was still a child. And the only brown haired people that he ever met was his father and his mother, but his mother has lightish brown hair. Like a really lightish brown hair. This is where, well, Issei thought it was his father for a second until he realized that this person wasn't his father. Because the person started kind of like telling some of his guards to grab some of the kids to get ready to experiment. This is where, well, every time when each kid got experiment on or injected with one of the genes of just chance to transform into an Aron card, they were screaming in pain, so much pain, blood coming from their eyes and nose right now from the fact that they were in so much pain. The genes would never ever work with anyone. None of the mostly genes of mostly a hollow will ever work with a normal human child. Which mostly some of the people that were experimenting thinking that, yeah, this would never work because humans are too fragile and weak. But when everyone that was way older than Issei managed to fail somewhat, mostly someone actually managed to survive, and that was the girl who was 14. But they just thought that she was a little bit older in the fact that she managed to survive just from age. Or some age and from the fact that it's just a lot of luck. This is where Aizen decided to grab one of the vials, and it was actually one that was a Vasto Lord. This is where, well, when Issei was picked up and grabbed and kind of dragged away, Issei was screaming and crying, really wanting not to be injected. This is where, well, the person who was injecting him was none other than Aizen. Aizen looks at him with emotionless cold eyes, while Issei tries to beg towards Aizen. This is where, well, Aizen ejected him in an instant. Right now, Issei's body right now felt so much pain and then went all numb in an instant. Issei's body laid down on the kind of like surface. This is where Aizen looks at Issei's supposedly dead body. But this is where, well, something shocking and actually appearing on Issei. Issei right now in the middle of his chest right now appear a hole. And right now mostly a mask appears. This is where mostly supposedly being a Vasto Lord's mask. This is where he managed to use settle and try to kill people that were all around him. He was like a savage monster at that time. He didn't care. He wanted to slaughter and kill everything that was around him. This is where Aizen managed to knock him out in an instant. This is where Aizen had a grin on his face that day, even though Issei was passing out. Issei, after that happening, other kids got injected with other DNAs, but it wasn't Vasto or any of that. It was just Aoshu or even Gillian. This worked well. The girl actually, the oldest one actually had a Vasto, but it was a weak Vasto. This worked well. When Issei was kind of, mostly he was still 10 and was only a couple of months in this place being Wake Up Mundo. But this is where Issei was basically being trained, and basically specifically and specially trained to, become a, Vasto Lord. Well, one of the strongest Vasto Lord and one of the youngest. But still, mostly with all that happening, Issei try not to, cry or just try to endure all the pain and suffering that he just suffered from when he was a kid. There was also the fact that mostly Issei had to fight against some of the other Espadas. Grimjaw was someone very painful, but there was other ones. Some of them just really didn't care. Just like number 0 of the Espadas. That being Yamayo, something like that. This is where, Issei felt so much pain, and every time he sees Aizen, he sees nothing but a smirk on his face. Seeing Issei grow very well and processively, like if Issei was doing this for all the children, which he was taking all this abuse and beating just so other kids wouldn't take the same abuse and beating and hurtment and abuse and training and other stuff. He'd rather take it all so others wouldn't endure it. Every other kid actually saw him as kind of like an older brother figure doing this. Of course, the female, who was actually 14, kind of felt so sad and broken at the fact that Issei, who was an 11-year-old, took all this hurtment instead of her. This is where, she was trying to volunteer, but this is where Issei rather volunteered for her instead of anyone else. This is where, the kid who was actually 7, the youngest, was always the one to actually comfort Issei, since Issei was the closest one towards the child. Because for some reason he actually thought of mostly this child to be like a little brother to him. A very little brother that he always wished that he always had. This is where, Issei, for some reason, at some times when he was training other things, he really wished that he was with his parents instead of this harsh environment training. But one day actually all changed, and that one day was the most horrifying dream impossible. Well, not dream, nightmare. Just the worst thing that he rather not wish upon his evil and cruel enemies ever. But mostly, he can only wish upon one person, and that's none other than the person that's right in front of him. But mostly what happened in this place, or what happened, was mostly none other than the fact that, mostly Issei was kind of getting close with all the other children during the time, and also the kind of 14-year-old, and of course telling her that everything will be fine and no one will ever get hurt or any of that. And Aizen saw how mostly he was getting close and trusting the other children, and everyone was trusting him. This is where Aizen decides to, decides to kind of put a very cruel test and experiment to see how loyal Issei would be. This is where, Issei was put in an arena, but of course couldn't know who was the others who were put in an arena. He thinks that he was fighting against some of the other Espadas, which he decides to let his berserk side and instant side direct him, because that was the only way to kind of keep humanity a little bit. This is where he didn't know for a second, but every time he slaughtered and killed whoever was in front of him, and when he actually got out of his kind of monstrous kind of state form, he was kind of wondering what he actually killed. And Aizen decides to let him see. But when Issei went to go see, it was none other than some of the children. When Issei saw this, his face distorted into mostly anger and frustration. And when he looked back towards Aizen, Aizen just had a little smirk and grin. This is where Aizen kind of told him about trusting others, and how it's very bad and other stuff. That's why children like them shouldn't be trusting you too well, because they don't know much of a monster you are. He glares at him, and of course decides to go into Vasto in a different mode entirely into a Vasto. This is where, well, he went into something called Sin Vasto for a second. This is where, well, when he went into this form, he was trying to attack Aizen, but this is where Aizen knocked him out in an instant. This is where, well, Issei woke up and realized that he was chained somewhat. Issei didn't know why he was at the throne, as we'll see, seeing Aizen sitting on the throne. This is where he then noticed a kid being next to him, and it was none other than Shinkai. This is where, well, Aizen said that he would let Shinkai go if Issei decides to fully become loyal to him. This is where Issei said, yes, please, don't hurt him. This is where, well, Aizen appeared right in front of Issei and says, okay, good to know that you actually decide to, well, become very loyal. This is where he snapped his fingers and two guards just let Shinkai go, walking away or mostly just running away. And this is where, well, before anything else can happen, mostly the kid had a slash from behind him, a blood splattering down to the ground while Issei screaming saying no in his just horrible nightmare dream. This is where, well, he glares at Aizen and says, screw you, I'm not doing anything. This is where, well, Aizen says, but didn't you say that you would actually follow me and be my loyal servant? Issei says, screw you. This is where he went into a berserk state that almost destroyed anyone that was in Wake Mundo. But Aizen managed to knock him out again. This is where, well, after that day, he was in prison. And of course, right now, Aizen tried to go into a different approach. He tried to get Issei to be the loyal servant and want to, well, become, or, well, replace number 0, because he doesn't really like number 0 because his cocky, arrogant attitude most of the time. But yeah. This is where, well, Issei was in prison, but mostly some Soul Reapers managed to bust through Wake Mundo and managed to save Issei. That being a guy with a top hat and mostly, not top hat, a bucket hat with green and white. And it was none other than Urahara. Kisuke Urahara managing to save Issei. Now, it wasn't on purpose, it was kind of an accident, but yeah. This is where, well, Aizen was disappointed in the fact that Issei was saved that day. But he tries to kind of get him back, but mostly Issei was sent back to the human world after a while. After also sealing his powers away somewhat. But yeah. And that's not the point. This is where, well, after a while, this is where Aizen didn't really care about the fact that he missed a great opportunity with a half-human Arankar or something. But didn't really care, and went on with his life. And of course, fought against a 15-year-old boy named, what's it called, Ichigo Kurosaki. And Ichigo did manage to kick the shit of him and, well, one-shot him, blah, blah, blah. And this is how he ended up here. He was sealed and other stuff. This is where, well, mostly when Issei kind of remember all of this, he kind of looks up at mostly Aizen. This is where Aizen says, you look like you've seen a terrible ghost. Issei said, no. I just decided to accept myself. This is where Aizen kind of lifts an eyebrow and says, what do you mean? I accept myself. I accept the power that I was given. It might have been by base and luck and other bullcrap. But I accept it. Because I'm going to use this power to kill that motherfucker. Issei said with such venom in his voice. This is where, well, Issei then actually made the mask appear on his face. The mask had been trained for 1 month entirely. Actually appear on his face and glare at mostly Aizen. Aizen seems surprised and says, whoa, 50% of your power awakened. Interesting. I wonder how far you will grow, Issei-kun. This is where, well, Issei says, fuck you. I'll grow freaking high enough. High enough so one day I can fucking kill you. Oh, you can try. You can try so dearly, so much. Just go ahead. I'd love to see you try. Issei glares at this man, but decides to walk away and just decide to go with Urahara. This is where, well, Urahara decides to bring Issei towards mostly the shop and just see to train with mostly Ichigo. So after that 1 month happened, mostly Kisuke Urahara decides to bring Issei somewhere. Somewhere that he wants to know if he will be able to take out this person. It's none other than a phoenix. A phoenix that mostly everyone will know later on. But for right now, I will be ending it off here for part 2 of this what if. Other than that, I am so tired. I had my eyes closed for the longest point of time during doing this what if, and I just wanted to fall asleep the longest point. But yeah, I might have fucked up some of the words. Maybe later on I'll redo this. But other than that, I just wanted to go with mostly I just wanted to go on with the PTS kind of like nightmare dreams that Issei always had. So yeah, other than that, that's basically where I'm gonna leave it off for part 2. Part 3 will be whenever. But other than that, bye, see you, and yeah.